Hello, this is Michael Hexter. Welcome to Politics 2100 here on YouTube. So this episode I'm calling Corporate Democratic Leadership Partially Realizing Situation, Starts to Do Things, and Get Some Wins. So in the last couple weeks, so we are now at August the 10th here. In the last couple of weeks, the Democratic leadership and also just some other circumstances that surround that can be associated with this administration and with the congressional delegation from the Democrats, they have achieved some things. They've gotten some things done, and they have shown some fight actually, unusually and in a way that's surprising, a little bit surprising, but is also makes them more like a normal political party. I've been discussing the Democratic Party as, in a way, an abnormal party, a party that doesn't really defend its political identity, its political prospects, doesn't campaign well, doesn't fight well with their opposing parties, with the forces that are arrayed against them, either nominally or in reality. And so this is one step away from this, at least, and maybe temporary step away from this situation. I mean, not situation, this trend, this tendency of the Democratic Party to sacrifice itself for the benefit of the donors that's behind the scenes, but also even for the benefit of their nominal opponents, the Republicans. A constant game of concessions without any, reciprocal concessions from the Republicans. So anyway, and Joe Biden started his administration talking the talk that was very much like, and acting the act that is very much like this abnormal political behavior that I'm talking about. This politically unself-interested, behavior where one's own interests or the interests of one's constituents really are sacrificed continually. And so now, in ways that are sometimes complex and that are that are hidden from those constituents, so that the party doesn't lose all of its support for its essentially betrayal of its base. But anyway, good news. It seems as though in the last couple of weeks, we've seen a change, or at least the revelation of some backroom dealing between Chuck Schumer and Senator Joe Manchin, and then also the paying off, or the basically Joe Biden taking some actions that have relieved some of the inflationary pressure, as well as just events in the world just simply taking Joe Biden and his policies out of the spotlight, and or giving him a win, some of which is he deserved, and some of which is just simply him being in office at this time. And there are people in the Democratic Party and the Democratic base that immediately do not like what I'm saying, because I'm not attributing everything, both that I'm not attributing a saintly and determined, positive commitment to democratic values and the Democratic constituency by the leadership, that I'm actually showing a not too flattering picture of them, and also that they are partially now committed to some of those values, or at least they have a split loyalties. So anyway, it seems as though a few things have happened. I don't want to, I've been involved in a little bit of activism in the last couple of weeks. I went to Washington, D.C. to try to pressure Congress to act on climate as part of a group, a direct action group, now or never. And also, I don't want to attribute everything to that group. There was also a group of Senate staffers, I think probably more important, Senate staffers that occupied Chuck Schumer's office. And my politicking online is viewed by, only a few people. But, I have a Twitter feed and there I reinforce other voices and so forth and so on. There's been lots of criticism to go around. And then there's, in the press, there's also been some kind of often inaccurate and bad criticism of Biden, making him out to be a complete failure or completely wrong about certain things, and so has been hung since really his Afghanistan withdrawal decision. The media decided that they wanted to discipline him by being less favorable to him than they might have been. So that he has some independence of the vested interest that the media serves directly, the military-industrial complex, so forth and so on, that he has a tactical relationship to them, that he sometimes does things that somewhat disappoint them, though not a lot, and he actually has recompensated for his disappointing them by giving the military budget, overseeing the most enormous military budget ever. At least in dollar terms, for next year. So anyway, I think it's $810 billion. So anyway, up from 770 as it was for this year, and so not getting too much in the weeds of those particular aspects of this relationship, because the media plays a very important role in massaging the popularity and in promoting the actions of leadership, and they're generally very, very positive about the corporate Democratic leadership. They're generally protectors of them, and they work together. Sometimes, they try to discipline them by giving them some criticism that is either warranted or unwarranted. Often it's unwarranted, but it's a criticism that, they criticize them for the wrong things, let's say, not for the right things that I think they should be criticized for. But anyway, so and then now we have signs that the DOJ, which is supposedly not involved in this politics I'm talking about, supposedly is just working its way through the potential criminal wrongdoing of the former president, Donald Trump. And so that it looks like there may be potentially a indictment of Donald Trump. Again, it's not clear whether that is actually going to happen, but there was this FBI raid, and also there's other signs that there are the attempted coup of January 6th and around that time, December 2020 and January 2021, that's being taken seriously by the Department of Justice, is not being put in the category of political hot potatoes that we can never do anything about, or, for instance, or elite elite malfeasance that cannot be prosecuted because they are elite, and we don't want to put the elite in jail, so forth and so on, and put them in the dock. Donald Trump being a former president, being obviously a member of the elite. So anyway, it looks like that we might see a triumph for rule of law sometime soon. So anyway, so this is encouraging signs, and also the passage, okay, of the Inflation Reduction Act, which is supposedly considered a climate bill. It has some climate provisions in it. It is the biggest climate bill that the United States has actually passed, but it isn't. That doesn't mean it's very big from the point of view of the climate portion of it. There's some very, very optimistic emissions reduction projections associated with it. I'm not entirely willing to endorse those projections. I think it needs a lot more renewable energy and a lot less fossil fuel, a promotion of fossil fuels, and carbon capture, which is really a get out of jail free card for fossil fuels, to say that they will do carbon capture and storage. So anyway, so there's way too much of that in the bill. It seems to be a concession that Joe Manchin, one of the reasons why Joe Manchin signed on to this basically echo of Build Back Better, which was thought to be dead. But anyway, so it looks like the Democrats, in their campaigning for the upcoming November elections, will have some things to talk about. Not enough, not as much as they might have with Build Back Better, not as much direct help as would have been in Build Back Better as proposed. Direct help to people like the child tax credit. And there is some negotiation of drug pricing, again, extremely reduced. But at least they can start to talk about these things and say that they have done something for the American people, and contrast them to the increasingly extreme Republicans. So it's still the devil's still in the details, or it's still in the execution with regard to whether the Democrats will, in a basically consequent enough, clear enough manner, make the case for themselves and make the case against their opponents, both of those things. And then they will likely get a Senate majority and also maintain a House majority in November. So there is still a possibility for a bunch of wavering. And again, in the model of the American political system that I've been working with, and also of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, some of this wavering comes from serving moneyed interests, particularly financial interests, corporate leaderships, lobby, the lobby groups, also foreign governments that have a large lobbying components, like the Israeli government, the Saudi Arabian government. And so all of these things distort the political clarity which Democrats should have about what will serve their constituents, what is good policy for the American people, what is good policy for the world. So anyway, so they still can be turned away from their path of doing things. For instance, there's also still student debt relief, which would it would be a sour taste in the voice in the mouth of many Democratic voters or potential Democratic voters if nothing is done about student debt, which is entirely in the hands of Joe Biden. So all of this is, part part of the path to November, campaigning as well. There's a campaign component, there's a messaging component, there's also an action component that still is there. And they're also, the Democrats have in some way lucked out in having this very small rump of the former, basically what is the former Republican Party in the form of Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, who are basically co-leading the January 6th hearings, which have helped damage their main opponent, or at least the leader, the still nominal leader of the Republican Party, Donald Trump, by just exposing, from the point of view of quote unquote conservatives or Republicans, that he has betrayed them and that he's not a good man. So this is all things that the that have been going the way of the Democratic Party currently, that cannot be relied upon entirely in the future, and also don't really, in the long term, don't. Let's say if Donald Trump fades away and is no longer the leader of the Republican Party, they lose some of this benefit that they're getting, for instance, about this small rump of the old Republican Party that is essentially not really part of the party anymore, is about to be ejected from its congressional delegation. But anyway, that they are, and it seems as though for whatever reason Liz Cheney is wanting to damage Donald Trump to a degree, whatever the cost to her own political future. So anyway, and which, I mean, Democrats could do something very similar, but they have a problem of messaging and of being forceful and of being mean enough in a way to take down someone as caustic and use the word nasty as Donald Trump, and also the Republican Party more generally. So anyway, so this is just, I'm noting a change, and I think it's a good change, but it could be a temporary change. It's not a transformation. It's also not a endorsement of the corporate Democratic leadership, and that leadership still needs to go. It still needs to be replaced, and by politicians who are willing to fight more consistently for the American people, and also for the ideals of the Democratic Party, and not be as compromised as the current leadership with their extremely strong and deep relationships with extreme wealth, and their dependence on those donor class groups. So anyway, please share your comments, thoughts in the description box below, or in the comments below, and please like this video if you find it useful, and also please subscribe to Politics 2100 to get more notice of future episodes. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.